I am saddened, very saddened to say, as of yesterday night, Jimmy Butler officially requested a trade from the Miami Heat. Now, this is not really a shock to a lot of fans who closely follow the team. Like on Christmas, Shams reported that Jimmy preferred to be traded, and the three teams on the list were the Suns, which I personally don't buy, the Warriors, and the Rockets as potential trade targets and trade destinations for him. After this past summer, Pat Riley refused to offer him a new max contract extension. So before diving into the details, I want to show Jimmy some love because Jimmy Butler has done it all for the Heat. Since his arrival, he's been the driving force behind the team's success. He's led them to 3 Eastern Conference Finals and 2 finals appearances, like with the one being in his first season with the team. He's consistently elevated his game in the postseason, made so many clutch plays, proven time and time again that he's one of the league's top players, especially when it matters most. And I think Jimmy Butler is going to go down as a Heat legend. He's one of my personal favorite players. Like when I go hoop or when I'm watching film, like I always go back and I watch that Bucks. I think it was game 3 or game 4, where he just took over and he had like 50, I think. And you guys know what game I'm talking about, but he's just one of my favorite players. I practice his moves, like his fadeaways, his pull up, like everything. But he's just continued to give his all to this team in winning scenarios. And maybe if he had more help along the way, he would be sitting on a title or two by now. But I just want to start by saying if Jimmy wanted to be traded because he felt like he was being mistreated or that the Heat weren't improving or just that they weren't giving him that extension, I have no problem with it. There's nothing wrong with requesting out, wanting to change the scenery, especially if they're not gonna pay you. Like, I get it. But the story goes a little deeper than that, however. I think both parties, those being like Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley slash the Miami Heat, are at fault here. Now, starting with Jimmy Butler, in his time with the Heat, during the regular season, it's consistently been sort of lackluster effort during the regular season, which is frustrating at times, but at times I could understand because he has to do so much once the postseason hits, and the continued lack of improvement to the roster definitely made it more and more difficult as the years went on. Like he was coasting himself because he had, and I this is it's an excuse, but it's an excuse that I can understand because he had to do so much, and as long as the Heat just stayed afloat, his mindset was, "We'll get us there, and that's when we'll make things happen." And he made things happen. As of late, though, since Jimmy returned from his illness or ankle sprain, he'd been playing and just looked like a guy he was disengaged, like he didn't want to be there. Like you could tell, even if you weren't even a fan of the Heat, just watching the game, like he wasn't looking for the ball, he wasn't shooting the ball. Like he'd catch it and get a shot clock violation because he wanted to try and dump it off. Like he just wasn't like he wasn't trying to shoot, he wasn't trying to score, he wasn't taking good shots. Like the post was going around on Twitter where he shot like a one-legged, like kind of leaning corner three for no reason, like. And then Bam like looks at him like, "Why'd you shoot that?" And he shrugged, like, "I don't know," like stuff like that. And that was kind of the few things that were kind of just annoying me with this whole process because I don't think you should sabotage your team. Like, I get you want out, and I get things aren't going how you would like, but you still have to be a professional. And I don't like the disruptive approach because it affects the team, it affects your coaches, it affects your teammates, and the fans. Like we don't want to see that. Like I said, it's one of my favorite players. Like I don't want to, especially the last couple of years of his career, I don't want to see him like doing stuff like this because it's not a good look. And like he's just, and I'm not blaming this Heat situation on him. Like I want to make that clear now, but it's starting to be a bad look on him because he's ended every situation, every team that he's been on. The situation has ended poorly. And I thought Miami was going to be different, but I saw on ESPN today that they were talking about his usage rate this season, and I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I don't have all the numbers, and like I'm just going to give my general opinion on kind of why his usage might be down this season and why it is. I think both partiers are at fault again. Like there's no reason his usage rate should be at 20.9% or like his field goal field goal attempts per game this season, being at 10.5, especially as your highest paid player. Like, he's not shooting the ball, and he's also not involved in the offense. I think part of his lower usage rate this season is on coaching and just how they've been utilizing him in the offense. Like, Tyler Hero has taken a leap this season, and the ball is in his hands a lot more, rightfully so. He's been available. He's been playing really well. Like I said, I think he's an all-star potentially. And also, like, they're trying to space the floor. I'd get Bam more shots, trying to get him more involved in the offense. That hasn't been, it's improved as of late, but as the season started, it wasn't as good. But I think the other part of the usage rate issue is that just disengagement. Like I mentioned earlier, Jimmy sometimes his effort is lackluster, and this has been for seasons now. But this season specifically, like he's been working himself back from injury consistently. So that, I think that plays a part. Like if the team's playing good, you come back from injury, you don't want to insert yourself too much. Like I get that, but like he's been hurt a couple times this season. He's missed 10 games already this season, and I just think, and there's obviously more factors that come into play, but just off the top of my head and just a general, like, quick, I guess, a quick summary of what I was seeing, that's kind of the route I would take. And his comments after the game on Thursday were telling. Like after the game, he was talking about how he doesn't find joy playing in Miami anymore. And this is where I kind of want to segue to the end portion of the video and just take a look at Pat Riley in the role I think he's had to play in just this entire saga. So I just want to break down the roster management of this team so far. And I want to start by saying, like, I genuinely believe, and I've been saying this for years, like, I think Pat Riley has failed Jimmy Butler. Like, to put it plain and simple. Pat Riley is a Hall of Fame coach, executive, and make no mistake about it, like, the Godfather, like, he is one of one. But for the last 6 seasons, I felt like he's kind of just sat around and let the league pass this team by. I just want to go through the acquisitions that the Heat have made since signing Jimmy Butler in the 2019-2020 season. So that first season when Jimmy signed with the team, they made the big splash. They got Jimmy. They got Iguodala. They got Jay Crowder. And that's when they drafted Tyler Hero. That's also when they went to the finals in the bubble. Now, 2020, 2021, I kind of give all the teams that made deep playoff runs this season, I cut them all some slack because it was such a quick turnaround. Like I think it was like 2 months or 3 months instead of the longer offseason that they normally get. So every team that made a deep run got injured. Like the Lakers got injured, the Heat got injured, like the Celtics got injured. Like every team that was, just running it back got hurt. But in the 2021 season, they signed Avery Bradley. They traded for him, who ended up opting out because of COVID, like because of the COVID-19 and everything going on with that in the pandemic. And then they re-signed Kendrick Nunn, who was a solid player, but he's out of the league now. Like, take that as you will. And then they traded for Trevor Ariza, who was basically a dinosaur at this point. Like, he didn't really play. And this season, after they lost to the Bucks, it was kind of apparent. Like, they got swept, and it was just apparent that the team needed improvement. So what do? The next season, in 2021 and 2022, they trade for Kyle Lowry, who I thought he brought value to the team because he's just a winner, but he was aging at this point, and they signed him to this big deal, this huge contract. Well, they traded on him, and he was on this huge contract, and like even at the time, you're like, you kind of scratching your head, like, I don't know about that. And they also signed PJ Tucker, who was starting to age at this point. He was good for us, but we went up against the Celtics. Jimmy, shoots that famous the pull up three. Like he had Al Horford. It was like I don't know how much time was left, but he shot the three to go for the win instead of trying to go for the tie. Like he probably would have got fouled. You drive Al Horford on the in the paint, but neither here nor there. The team was banged up. They were tired. You get it. But again, the lack of firepower from this team is showing. Like you made it this far again. You were one shot away from going to the finals again. You lose just because you don't have enough. Like Tyler Hero got hurt. Guys they were banged up. But again, that lack of firepower is what I'm pointing to. So the 2022-2023 season comes around. And the Heat are the 8th seed. And they go on that crazy run where, they make it out the play-in. Jimmy leads them to the finals. And this season, they drafted Jovic, who didn't really play. They re-signed Caleb Martin. So No new moves. You just re-signed a player, and they re-signed Victor Oladipo, who got injured. Again, after this season, it was apparent. Like after they went up against the Nuggets in the finals, and it wasn't a competitive series. Like everyone kind of saw, like this team needs more firepower, and what Heat fans have been, screaming from the rooftops for years now. Like I felt like it was even more apparent. But no, Pat Riley saw his 8th seed team go to the finals, and he was just like, "Yeah, we just need to get healthy. Like we just need to run it back." And during this offseason, every one of the Heat's conference rivals, like one of the big dogs, made moves. And it was so frustrating this summer. Like this is when they were trying to get Dame, and they missed out on KD, and they missed out on Durant. But the Celtics, I just want to name a few teams that improved and have passed us in those, like in the years since then. The Celtics that season, after that finals run against the Nuggets, added Drew Holiday and Porzingis. The Bucks stole Dame. The Pacers got Siakam. The Knicks got better. Like they just improved. That they got Brunson around that time, and the Heat just sat on their hands and did nothing. 2023, 2024 comes around. Jimmy gets hurt. They lose to the Celtics in the first round. This season, they drafted Jaime. Like they signed Thomas Bryant. They got Kevin Love in the buyout market. But like again, no improvement. And that leads us to the 2024-2025 season, where we are at right now. No moves were made. We drafted Khalil Ware, who's been a solid rookie, but he's a rookie. And we signed Alec Burke. That was it. Now, I want you to go through those past 6 years, and you point to me one notable move that really pushed this team. Like I said, we needed firepower. And no big moves were made. Nothing was done. And it's just been frustrating, to say the least. And now things are starting to unfold, and I just think in the Jimmy Butler era, Pat Riley has failed to support his star player in a way that matches his importance to the team. Like it's been reported, like he's been clamoring, like I bring in more talent, like we need more help. Pat Riley just did not get it done. He has not gotten it done in a very long time. And the final straw for me was Pat Riley's comments to Jimmy during the Celtics series. Like, yeah, he was trolling, he got hurt, but he told him to keep, like, if you're not out here playing against the Celtics, like, keep your mouth shut. And I get the frustration because Jimmy had been hurt all year. Like, he'd been kind of, he coasted through the regular season. And then he got hurt during the play-in, which it was like a freak injury. It wasn't his fault. Like, I think, was it Kelly Oubre? I don't remember who. Someone, like, they landed on his knee. Like, it was just a freak accident. But that's not how you handle your star player, and let alone a player who's carried your team for the past 5 years. Like, that's just not. I don't care who you are. Like you don't do that to your star player. Like you could say that in private, but you don't come out and like, because you make it a bigger deal. Like you can't walk back that statement. Like if you say something in private to him, okay, you have plausible deniability. Like the media, everyone doesn't know, so it doesn't become that big of a storyline. And I get Pat Riley's known for being tough and vocal, and he's a winner, but his stubbornness, like it's shown over time. Like it creates friction, and this was one of those moments. Over the past 2 decades, he's consistently pushed stars out of the door. Like we lost LeBron because of Pat Riley's stubbornness, and he didn't want to acquiesce. I'm not acquiescing to anyone's demands. Like I don't care if you're LeBron James, and hey, that's his prerogative, but that's what happened. We lost LeBron. We lost D-Wade because they didn't want to pay him in his final years, a guy that had given so much to the franchise. And we eventually got him back and he retired with the team, but it was just a bad look. And now we're about to lose Jimmy Butler. And yes, there's been championships along the way, but I just think Pat Riley's handling of these situations is setting a troubling precedent for the future. Because if the pattern continues, I just think it's going to get a lot harder for the Heat to retain their top tier talent and attract new stars. Because, like, as a diehard Heat fan, like that's my team. I'm gonna go down watching them. It's tough to watch these relationships break down, and I think this Jimmy Butler situation is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. If I was a betting man, I think the Heat hold on to Jimmy until the offseason. Like, I don't think they make a trade and get rid of him, just because it makes more sense to hold on to him, because you have more flexibility. Like, you can just get rid of him in a sign-in trade, or you could just let him walk and you let that money be off the books. Because if you make a trade for him, especially during the season, you're more than likely just going to be taking back more long-term money, and the Heat don't want to do that. And like, that's the whole point. They didn't want to do that. But I hope this situation doesn't go as bad as I think it will, because Pat Riley, Jimmy Butler, they're both stubborn, they're both huge personalities, and that's just gonna clash and clash and clash, and who knows. But that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning into the Peer Review Podcast. And please make sure, again, to share the podcast with your friends and family, as well as follow us on X at peerreview_pod and on TikTok at Peer Review Podcast to stay up to date with our latest podcast episodes and releases. This is the Peer Review, signing off.